Hello, everybody. Josh Brown here, back for another great episode on Franchise Euphoria. Well, today's episode is brought to you by IndieFranchiseLaw.com, a leading resource in the franchise space to help you if you're considering buying a franchise, turning your business into a franchise, or growing your business through a licensing or franchise structure. So go on, check it out, IndieFranchiseLaw.com. I think you'll find a lot of valuable and free information as you continue to kind of weigh franchising and licensing and the growth of your business. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy today's episode. So we've got another bonus episode here for you on Franchise Euphoria. This is Josh Brown, and I'm getting lots of questions, lots of reach out regarding the $2 trillion legislation that Congress passed last week. So can't talk about the entire piece of legislation because it's huge and entails a whole bunch of different things. But, in fact, if you break it down, the $2 trillion really covers individuals, covers public health organizations, state and local governments, big corporations, and small businesses, and some education institutions as well. For purposes of this episode, I really want to focus on the impact on individuals and small businesses because you guys are my peeps, and that's what I really am getting questions about. And, what's the impact on individuals with their lives and also with their businesses, their franchises. And so really this episode is going to focus on the individuals at the start and then the impact on the small businesses as well, with a focus on the Paycheck Protection Program, which is one piece of this $2 trillion package. But real quick at the start, there's a lot of people who have asked about the whole component that is focused on individuals. Here's what you need to know about the cash payments for individuals. There's roughly $300 billion in the bill that's focused on individuals. And most individuals earning less than $75,000 are going to get a one-time cash payment of $1,200. That's either going to be direct deposited into your account or a check sent to you. If you have filed your tax returns for 2019, the amount that you made is going to be based on your 2019 returns. If you have not, it's going to be based on your 2018 return. So if you're an individual and you showed income of $75,000 or less in 2018 or 19, you are going to receive a check for $1,200 for $1,200. And if you are signed up for the auto deposit, where you've maybe received money back from the government in the past and they just deposited it in your checking account or whatever bank account you've provided, then you're just going to receive that $1,200 in your account. And they're trying to get that out as quickly as possible. And depending on who you listen to, it can be anywhere from, the next couple weeks to the next several weeks before that occurs. If you're married couples, and then you would receive a check. And if you file jointly, so if you're filing jointly as a married couple and you make $150,000 or less together as a couple, you're going to receive $2,400. So $2,400. If you're a married couple and you have a family and you earn under the $150,000, then you're going to get the $2,400 and then a $500 per each child that you have. Again, this is going to be based on your tax return from 2019 or from 2018. The program for both individuals and married couples starts to fan out when, if you're an individual, if you make more than $75,000, it starts to phase out and phases out slowly where you'll make less money. What amount, I don't know, but it phases out to where if you're an individual and you make $99,000 or more, or over $99,000, you're not going to get any payment. So if you make somewhere between $75,000 and $99,000 as an individual, you're going to get some amount of money that's going to be less than the $1,200, but I'm not sure what that amount's going to be. If you're a married couple with kids and you make somewhere between $150,000 and $198,000, you're going to receive some amount under $2,400. Well, actually, you're going to receive some amount depending on the number of kids you have, because you got 2,400 for the married couple and then 500 per kid, but you're not going to receive the full amount. If you make over $198,000, then you are not going to receive any money on the individual side of this program. So again, that's just something that's automatically going to happen. There's nothing that you need to apply for. They're just going to be looking at your returns. But I would highly recommend that you contact your accountant and talk about when they think you can expect that money, what they're basing it off of. Maybe you're in the situation like a lot of people where you've already provided your tax information to your accountant and you don't know if they filed or not filed. So I highly recommend that you contact your accountant and get their advice and input on what you can expect. In terms of small business, which is what I want to focus on right now, there's really two parts to this program. And of course, franchises are part of small business. And so I want to be talking to my franchise folks about all this, my franchise listeners, and that this small business portion of this $2 trillion package really comprises a lot of variables, but the stuff that you're hearing about is mostly two components, and that's the SBA Disaster Loan and then also something called the Paycheck Protection Program. Well, the SBA Disaster Loan is a loan that has been around for a long time, but it's something where you as a small business can go and get a loan from the SBA, assuming that you meet the criteria, that you meet their underwriting requirements, that you have good credit, and that you've got collateral and a personal guarantee to secure the loan. So it's like a typical SBA loan, probably going to be at a little bit of a lower interest rate, but you're going to have to pay that back over time. And it's just more akin to a typical business loan. But what I really want to focus on today is the second part, which is the Paycheck Protection Program. A lot of people who ask questions about this don't really have a great resource of where to go, where to look to find out information. Well, where you should start is you should go to SBA.gov. That's SBA.gov. And when you go to the SBA.gov website, the very first thing you're going to see is it'll say coronavirus, COVID-19, small business guidance and loan resources, learn more. Just click on the learn more button, and it's going to take you to another page where you're going to find highlighted links. And the first one you're going to see is the Paycheck Protection Program. Click on that link, and that will take you to more information, not only on the Paycheck Protection Program, but also on other disaster loans that are available. But the reason I want to really focus on for this episode, the Paycheck Protection Program is first because all of these are very complicated, and it would just be impossible to go into all of them in one episode. But most importantly, I think this is the relief that most franchisees and franchisors are looking at right now to take advantage of. Essentially, what this relief does is it is trying to give small businesses 500 and under, and this includes nonprofits as well, and it also includes solopreneurs, it includes sole proprietors, and so forth, but giving you the opportunity to keep your business open during this time when the economy has been forced shut. So a lot of us, if you can't conduct transactions in your business, you have no business right now, but it's because the economy has been forced to shut down due to the COVID-19 virus. This is our legislature's attempt to provide somewhat of stability for small businesses so that they can keep their doors open, keep employees paid for this period of time and get through it to when the shelter at home and so forth is lifted and we can all go back to work. A couple of the highlights of the Paycheck Protection Program is that essentially you can qualify up to $10 million, but it's determined and based on your 8 weeks of prior average payroll plus an additional 25% of that amount. So essentially you submit to them your payroll documents, your benefits. They might ask for a few other items through an application process. And on this site at the SBA.gov, you can click on various links and it will tell you where you can go to apply. I would recommend that if you've got a good banking relationship, which you should with your franchise, that you go to your bank, you contact your bank, and you see if they can help you through the application process. But the entire point of the Paycheck Protection Program is that it's supposed to be fast, it's supposed to be easy, and there's not very much underwriting that goes into it at all. I mean, typically, as many of you may know, many of you may have, an SBA 7A type loan. When you went and got that loan, it was probably 45, 60, 90-day period of time, a whole lot of underwriting, a lot of information that was gathered by the Small Business Administration and your bank to assist with the processing of that loan. Well, here they know that people need money and they need money fast. So there is literally no collateral that they're going to try to be getting. There's no personal guarantees. The application process is supposed to be simple and quick and something that you can submit by essentially trying to get roughly 2.5 times what your average payroll and benefits are. And the point is that you can use that money to help continue to pay your employees, to pay your rent, to pay your utilities, to pay other business expenses as outlined. It's a broad set of expenses and business related payments that you can use this money for. You can also obviously included in the payroll and expenses is include yourself if you're part of the payroll. And so that you can continue to pay yourself and pay your other people through this period of time. This may be the first of several pieces of paycheck protection programs that come out, depending on how long this health crisis continues on. But the biggest key to the whole program is that you can get this money, and if you use it for the very broad set of circumstances that you're allowed to use it for, then you get 100% forgiveness on that loan. In other words, you don't have to pay it back. You have to understand this. There's a lot of people, you don't have to pay it back if you use it for what it was meant to be used for. Again, depending on your business, there are going to be questions, there are going to be gray areas. This is where your accountant is going to be very, very important to you. And if you don't have an accountant, reach out to somebody you know and trust and ask them to recommend an accountant to you to contact them. Because what you need to be able to do right now with your franchise business is go to an accountant and say, here's the deal. I've got this many employees. I'm trying to stay open. Here's what our payroll is. Here's all the information we've gathered. Here's the money that we're going to be asking for. What can I use it for? Here are my daily, weekly, monthly expenses. And your accountant should be able to walk through and at least give you some commentary, some opinion on what clearly would be part of the program and what may be gray and what may not be part of the program. But if you don't use the money for the intended purpose, and if you don't use the money for the forgivable parts of the loan, in other words, for expenses that are going to be forgivable under the loan, the only thing that happens at that point is you're going to owe that portion of the money back. Because essentially, at some point after all this, they're going to take a look at what you have used that money for. And if some of that money was used for other purposes, maybe there are other purposes for your business that may have fallen outside of what the regulations required, then that portion or any portion of that loan, then you have to pay that back. But you get a 6 to 12 month deferral on paying that back, depending on your application. So again, you get a 6 to 12 month deferral, meaning if you have to pay any money back, you don't have to start paying any money back for anywhere between 6 to 12 months, depending on the specifics of what you're approved for. Additionally, what you do have to pay back will be capped at 4% interest rate, which is very low interest. It could be less than 4%, but it won't be any higher than 4%. And it will be amortized over a 10-year period of time. So there's a lot of people who have asked me questions about, well, what if, I'm not using the money for the right things, or I'm unknowingly using the money for the wrong things? Well, worst case scenario is you're going to owe that portion of the money back, but you're going to have anywhere between a 6 to 12 month deferral before you have to start paying any of that money back. And you could pay it back if you so choose within a 10-year period of time. So this is very low risk. It's supposed to be low risk. Again, there's no collateral and no personal guarantee. So you're getting this through your business. And in the event that you don't keep the employees on to match with the regulations of how long you're supposed to keep employees on if you take this money, or if for some reason you take the money and your business goes out, you're not going to be held personally liable for that money. That's a big, big, big deal. I mean, under all of your franchise agreements, if you're a franchisee, my guess is you've got a personal guarantee or you negotiated out of one. But when you are under a personal guarantee, it means even if your business goes under, you as the owner operator are guaranteeing that loan and you have to pay it back. Here, under the Paycheck Protection Program that was just passed, you don't have a personal guarantee. You don't have any collateral. In other words, what I mean by collateral is you don't have to secure this loan with your house, right? You don't have to provide anything of tangible value that if you don't pay it back, they can come and take your house or they can come and take other assets. No, there's no aspect of that applies to this Paycheck Protection Program. However, as compared to the disaster loans, which is another type of a loan with the SBA that's been around for a long time, but people are looking at those loans, you do have to pay back. And those have an interest rate that's not fixed at 4%. And you have to have collateral and guarantees on that. So on the disaster loan, if you're looking at the disaster loan, which can be used for anything related to your business, you do have to pay that back. You have to pay interest, and you have to, put up collateral and securitize that loan. But with the Paycheck Protection Program, you do not have to do that. Again, I could talk about these programs for probably another hour or two, but I purposely want to keep this relatively simple and straightforward, and really address a lot of the questions that I've been getting. One other question before I finish this episode is there's some businesses who have already had to take the disaster loan, the economic injury disaster loan, which I just spoke about, and now want to look at that Paycheck Protection Program. If you are one of those folks, you can roll in your disaster loan into the Paycheck Protection Program. Again, you need to talk to your accountant about that. The specifics are important. The factual situation matters, but you can absolutely do that as part of the Paycheck Protection Program. Again, there's lots of things going on out there for everybody and lots of new things that we're learning every day about these different programs. But I certainly hope with your franchise systems, whether you're a franchisee or a franchisor, that you're looking at every way in which you can continue to run the business to get through this period. The folks who can get through this period and are positioned well coming out of this crisis are positioning themselves, I think, very well for a boom after this. Hopefully, obviously no guarantees, but hopefully. So this Paycheck Protection Program through the SBA is something that can help stabilize through these very tough times. I'm sure many of you listening have questions and so forth. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, josh@indyfranchiselaw.com, and I will certainly do my best to respond and help you any way I can. Obviously, this is not, I'm not trying to give you legal advice or anything. Your situation is unique to yourself. And if you have your own lawyer, I would highly recommend that you contact your lawyer to ask about specific legal questions regarding your franchise. And I would also highly recommend that you contact your accountant. So in the interim, I'm going to have more, episodes on this, but in the interim period, be safe out there. and educate yourself. Go to SBA.gov. Go to SBA.gov. That is the best place to go to start off. Then you can go look at all the other different sites and interpretations, everything. But go to SBA.gov and read all that information about these programs. Thanks again. Talk soon. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Franchise Euphoria. If you enjoyed this episode or have enjoyed the podcast in general, I would really appreciate it if you could go to iTunes and leave me a rating and review. It really helps to get this podcast out to more and more people. So the easy way to do it is go to iTunes and in the search box, put in Franchise Euphoria. You will then see my cover art and you click on my smiling face that says Franchise Euphoria and then click on the link that says ratings and reviews. It's that simple, but boy, oh boy, does it mean the world to me when people leave ratings and reviews. And like I said, it really helps get the show out there. Once again, would love it if you would go to iTunes and leave a rating and review if you enjoyed this episode or other episodes of the show. And until the next time, happy franchising.